Hi class, this is Mashana Jagish. I wanted to go over some of the stuff that, some of the material that we went over this week, particularly counseling skills and characteristics of an effective counselor. So there are a few things this week that I noticed that were pretty prominent to me just because they were new perspectives for me, new concepts. And one of them was implementing social justice approaches into practice. And just reading about it made me not only see that for the first time that would be necessary to explore and to put into practice, but also it made sense. I mean, it was backed up and validated, and so I found that interesting. And then also it was discussing. I think it was in the reading material that the client's expectations. And that's just not something that I had really considered before too terribly much. I mean, we think about it a little bit, but it gave more information about that, and to think about their perspective, and that they're coming in and they could be very defeated, very scared and broken down, very desperate, and how much they are in need of hope in that situation. And that also they may be dealing with this social stigma, which is what could have kept them out of counseling for so long. Just thinking about breaking those down by educating them and by offering them hope, because that's the strongest indicator, or a strong indicator of client success in counseling, is if they have hope. So being able to instill that, and I found that all that stuff really interesting. And then, let me see, I lost my place of where I was at. Okay, so the next thing was when the material went over skills that we can work on now in our personal lives that'll help us in our professional lives later. And I liked that because I felt like I could do something now, and that was really exciting for me. And then I actually related to some of it, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But I know that I'm an advice giver, and I'm one of those people who try to approach people's problems by trying to immediately solve it, try to figure out exactly what answers I can give them to fix their situation, rather than, a counselor's position is not necessarily to give advice or to fix the problem, but it's to help the client learn to fix their own problems and help guide them to the right answers for them, to find the right answers themselves. And so I feel like that's definitely something that I need to work on, and I can start doing now when I talk to people. But I don't think I'm very good at it. So that's the one thing. I know we're supposed to ask a question. So my question is what kind of suggestions would you be able to give me to stop being an advice giver, and sort of what approach would work best to allow people, when they come to me, whether it be personal or professional, to start allowing them to, guiding them in the right direction rather than just giving them answers. And then, so the videos that we watched this week, there were a few things that there were a couple things I noticed all three counselors did. They were engaged in active listening, especially the first one, the brainstorming one. He was incredibly engaged. He was very intense. He was leaned forward, and but I don't think it was too much. But I liked the third one, dancing and helping. I liked his approach to active listening, because you could tell he was engaged and he was listening actively, but his body language was very relaxed, and it kind of puts, I would think, at least if I were the client, it would put me at ease too. But I could still tell that he was listening to everything. And then the other thing was they all used like, they were summarizing, they were using reflection of meaning, reflection of feelings. They were acknowledging and reiterating everything that the clients were telling them. Each one did that. I think the only thing I have, like, if I may be so bold as to critique anything, the second counselor, which was for the homesick one, she used a lot of encouragers. The yeah, and I feel like it was a bit much, and maybe that's just my personal opinion, but I felt like it was sort of overkill to the point that it was a little annoying, and it sounded a little dismissive. Like when you're talking to somebody and they continually just say, yeah, it's almost as though they're dismissing everything that you're saying to them. So I felt like it was a little much. Even though we are supposed to use encouragers, I thought it was a little too much. But what I liked about that video was, instead of focusing on her being homesick, she, opened up the door to, well, what are you doing at school to establish relationships that are meaningful and reflect some of the relationships that you have at home and meet some of the needs that you're missing right now by not being able to be around your family. And I thought that was interesting. And I learned a lot from that. So, all right, well, thank you. And I look forward to watching your videos and replying.